An Introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francois de Sales, Book 3, Chapter 21, Counsels and Remedies against Evil Friendships. What is the remedy against all these unholy, unblessed friendships? Directly that you feel any inclination toward them, speedily turn away. Hasten to the cross of Christ, and let his crown of thorns surround your heart, that those little foxes may not come near. Do not parley with the enemy. Do not say, I will listen to him, but not obey him. I will open my ears, but close my heart to him. Rather, be strict in such things. The heart and the ears are closely connected, and as it is impossible to stop a torrent in its course down the mountainside, so it is to defend the heart from that which we admit to our ears. The goat, according to Alcmaeon, breathes through its ears instead of its nostrils, which Aristotle denies. I do not know how this is, but I do know that our heart draws its breath through our ears, receiving thereby the thoughts of others, which the heart exhales again by the mouth. Be watchful, therefore, against hearkening to foolish words, else your heart will be infested. And do not fear to be uncivil or rude in rejecting all such. Remember that your heart is dedicated to God, and your love sacrificed to him. It is sacrilege to take one particle away from him. Rather, renew your offering by countless resolutions and protestations, taking shelter therein, as a stag at bay. Call upon God, he will succor you, and his love will protect yours, so that it may be wholly his. And if you are already taken in the net of such hollow friendships, hasten into the presence of God, acknowledge before him your weakness and vanity, and then with the greatest firmness you can, detest these follies commenced. Abjure the vain profession you have made. Renounce the promises received, and by a great and determined act of the will, arrest your heart in its progress, and resolve never again to enter upon so dangerous a path. If you can depart from the object of such love, I greatly approve of it. For as it is said, that he who is bitten by a serpent cannot be easily cured in the presence of those who have been themselves wounded by the same bite, so the person who has been stung by love will be healed with difficulty in the sight of the other, bitten by the same passion. The young man of whom St. Ambrose speaks in his 2nd volume on Penance, having made a long voyage, returned entirely freed from the impure loves in which he had previously indulged, and indeed so changed, that when his partner in sin met him and said, "Don't you know me? I am still myself," he replied, "But I am no longer myself." Absence had brought about this happy change. And St. Augustine tells us that he hastened from Tagaste to Carthage in order to overcome his exceeding grief at the loss of his friend. But what must he do who cannot withdraw himself? Let him absolutely retrench all particular familiarity, all private conversation, amorous looks, smiles, and in general all communications and allurements which might nourish this filthy and smoking fire. Or, if he must speak to the other party, let it be to declare by a bold, short, and serious protestation the eternal separation that he has sworn. I cry aloud to everyone who has fallen into these wretched snares, cut them. You must not amuse yourself with unraveling these criminal friendships. You must rend them asunder. Do not untie the knot. Burst them or cut them, so that the cords and strings may be worth nothing. We must keep no measures with a love that is contrary to the love of God. But after I have thus broken the chains of this infamous bondage, there will still remain some feelings. The marks and traces of the iron will still be imprinted on my feet, that is, my affections. No, Philothea, they will not, if you have conceived such detestation of the evil as it deserves. For if this is the case, you will no longer be agitated by any movement but that of an extreme horror of this infamous love, and of all relating to it. And you will rest free from all other affection toward the object you have abandoned, but that of a most pure charity for God's sake. But if through the imperfection of your repentance you still feel certain evil inclinations, procure for your soul a mental solitude, as I have taught you before, and retire into it as much as you can, and renounce all your evil inclinations by short prayers of the Spirit 1,000 times repeated. Reject them with all your strength. Occupy yourself more than usual with holy books. Confess and receive communion more frequently. Open with humility and simplicity the suggestions and temptations which trouble you to your director, if you can, or at least to some faithful and prudent soul. And doubt not that God will deliver you from these passions, if you will continue faithfully in these good exercises. Do you say that it is ungrateful thus to break off such a friendship? Welcome that ingratitude which is pleasing to God. But it is not ungrateful. On the contrary, we serve our friend as well as ourself, for the danger was mutual. And if not now, before long, he too will join your song of thanksgiving and say, O Lord, you have broken my bonds asunder. I will offer to you the sacrifice of praise, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. Chapter 22. Further counsels concerning friendship. Friendship requires an abundant communion or interchange, without which it can neither begin nor continue. But, together with the communion of friendship, other communications are wont to slide from heart to heart by a mutual expression and infusion of affections, inclinations, and impressions. And this chiefly when we esteem highly him whom we love. For then we open our whole hearts to the object of our friendship, and readily receive his inclinations and impressions, whether they be good or bad. Assuredly, the bees which gather Heraclitan honey do seek honey only, but they insensibly suck the poison out of the aconite when they feed upon it. In this respect, therefore, give good heed to the teaching we have received from our blessed Lord, and from holy men of old. Let us be wise money changers. That is to say, let us beware that we do not receive bad money with that which is good, nor bad gold instead of pure gold. Discriminate between what is worthless and what is precious, for scarcely anyone is without his faults. Why should you imbibe your friend's tares and failings with his love? Unquestionably you should love him, notwithstanding his imperfections, but neither love nor follow those. For friendship requires the communication of what is good, not what is bad. As those who take gravel from the Tagus, after they have separated the gold which is in it from the sand, take it away, leaving the sand behind. So in friendship, men should reject the sand of imperfections and not give it entrance into their hearts. St. Gregory Nazianzen mentions that some of those who loved and admired St. Basil went so far as to imitate even his bodily imperfections, his slow, absent-minded manner, the shape of his beard, and his peculiar gait. And we often see that husbands and wives, parents and children, or friends who love each other dearly, either out of complaisance or imitation, acquire sundry little habits and peculiarities in their mutual intercourse. But it should not be so, for everyone has plenty of individual failings, without assuming those of another. And friendship, far from requiring us to imbibe one another's faults, would rather oblige us to strive mutually to overcome all such failings. We must doubtless bear patiently with our friend's faults, but not encourage him in them, much less adopt them ourselves. In this, I allude only to imperfections. As to sins, we must neither encourage nor tolerate them in a friend. It is a poor and unworthy friendship which can see a friend dying, see him perishing of a great pussy abscess, and not have courage to make the sharp incision of correction which would save him. True and living friendship cannot exist amid sin. The salamander is said to extinguish the fire in which it lies, and sin destroys that friendship where it effects an entrance. If the sin be but accidental, it will be put to flight by a friendly correction. But if it fixes itself and abides, then friendship will perish, for friendship can only exist where virtue is. Still less should friendship ever lead us into sin. Our friend becomes an enemy if he would cause us to sin, and deserves to be cast off if he strive to cause his friend to perish. And that is sure to be a false friendship, which is entertained toward a vicious man, or is nourished in sin. If we love a person full of vice, our friendship too will be evil. For since it cannot be founded on true virtue, it must rest in some false good or in mere sensual attraction. The connection between men of business concerning temporal matters is but a shadow of real friendship, since its object is not personal attachment, but love of gain. We may take two precepts as the pillars of our Christian life. First, that of the wise man. He that fears God shall likewise have good friendship. That's from Sirach. And that of St. James. The friendship of the world is the enemy of God. End of Chapter 22, Book 3.